months until Christmas. Now, can we decide on something together as a community? Can you partner with me on this, please? I know that we don't get along, like the world is full of conflict and bipartisanship and political unrest, but can we just team up on one thing and agree that there's at least 4 more weeks before we should be hearing Christmas music? Like, who likes Christmas music here? I heard, who's tired of Christmas music already? Thinks it's too early? Yeah, a couple of hands? Listen. I heard the song playing this week, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. It looks nothing like Christmas outside. It's just dirt. Just dirt. We had one day on Monday of devastating ice that nearly killed us all. That's not Christmas. 4 more weeks. By the way, my name's Jeff. If you don't know who I am, I come to Hope City. This is my home church. I grew up coming to the project, and it's always an honor and it's always exciting for me to be able to share here. It's exciting because I grew up in those seats from 18 to when I became a pastor at a different church at about 24, 25 years old. So I'm always happy to be here. 10 years ago, I was 100 pounds overweight. I basically was a college dropout, had been fired from my job, and felt hopeless because I really felt like I missed the purpose and the calling I had in life. My friends were all moving on to careers, and some of the careers were the ones that I wanted, which made it even harder. They were just, moving on to the next stage, and even though I had just gotten married, and some had seen that as success, I secretly, even though she probably didn't know it at the time, felt like a failure to my wife as well. We're off to a real positive start, hey guys? I felt just crushed. And while not all of these things were my fault, like getting fired from my job, like everything was snowballing, at the end of the day, I could look at my life and say, yeah, I probably made a few bad decisions. I definitely did something that contributed to this. Something was lacking in my life. I would commonly just sleep in a little bit. That was kind of what would be normal for me. I'd have a hard time starting my homework, and if I didn't do it with excellence. Sound familiar? And I'd be doing all-nighters all the time because I just procrastinate time and time again. I lacked structure in my life, and it was, for the longest time it was okay. I could kind of play it off or talk my way out of things, but it was starting to show, and I was starting to reap the repercussions of my behavior. In a Time magazine study, researchers at the University of Minnesota found that people who practice self-control and discipline are generally more happy. Big shocker, right? The quote that I found, they said in the article, people who have good self-control do a number of things that bring them happiness. Namely, they avoid problematic desires and conflict, says the study's co-author Kathleen Bose, professor of marketing at the University of Minnesota. And of course, I think we'd all agree with that, right? Like, we can all think of a bad situation that came into our lives because we made the wrong choice, because we took the easier route. And if we would have made some better choices or just said no or added some structure to our lives, we probably wouldn't have found ourselves, giving into that habit or finding ourselves in debt or just in a bit of a depressive state or whatever it is. We would all be able to identify a time in our life where we did something that we shouldn't have, and it ruined an element of our life. What undisciplined choices do you regret? When did you lack self-control? What is one thing, one current habit, one thing that you've been kind of stressing out about because it's out of control and you need more discipline in it? What is that? Like I said, self-discipline, it's clearly something we all admire. Like if I went up to you and I was like, hey, do you want to have more control of your life? Do you want to be able to succeed? Do you want to feel like you're in control? Do you want to see more success? Do you want to be happier, like the study said? No one's gonna be like, nah, Jeff, I'm good. Spiraling out of control is more fun. Whatever, it's easy. I'm lazy. Some people might pretend that, but at the end of the day, we all want more control of our lives. And look at the people that we're generally motivated by. Like, who here hasn't encountered The Rock's Instagram at some point in time? Like, it's 7:30 a.m., I'm waking up for work, and I look on Instagram, and The Rock has been up for 4 hours clanging and banging and grinding out in the gym, hitting legs, crushing it all day. He's so inspirational. He's out there right after that, like 4 a.m., and then he's off to work to make another movie about a skyscraper or jumping out of a helicopter, and I'm gonna line up to watch it even though it's the same movie over and over and over again. But I love it. But I see him up early, I see the motivational things that he has, and I'm like, I want to do that. And the next day I'm like, yeah, no, I'm up at 4 a.m. I set that alarm, I'm going to go for a run. 4 a.m. hits, nope. I've been setting my alarm for 4 a.m. for about 7 years. I have not done it once. I have just hit, nope, not today, tomorrow. Doesn't happen. It just isn't possible. Or maybe for you, it's another social media influencer. It's that girl that, she's a mom of 4, but she works out 5 hours a day and somehow looks like she's 22 still. She's selling artisan candles online, and she still has time at the end of her busy day to share her new almond milk recipe with you. Because we all care so much about almond milk recipes. If you're sharing almond milk recipes, please stop. Stop. Enough is enough. It's like, Brittany, we don't care. Let's move on. Sorry, if you sell almond milk recipes, I'm not trying to pick on you. I don't like it. Personally, I love to follow Navy SEALs. Like, these are the best of the best for soldiers. Like, these people are the most disciplined, the amount of pain and suffering and physical endurance they put themselves through, the mental commitment they have to one goal. And again, I'm just like, every time I hear one of them talk, I'm like, yeah, no, I should do that. Not become a Navy SEAL, that ain't gonna happen. But like, I wanna get up early the next day, I'm motivated to do something, and maybe for a couple of days I am, and that's great. But at some point, that's a level of self-discipline that just doesn't seem realistic to me. But I love the idea. I think we can all think of somebody, maybe it's a friend, a family member, somebody who you know, a coach, or somebody you grew up with, or a celebrity, like I said, who is somebody who you want to be more like because of the level of discipline that you see in their lives. Here at The Project, we regularly look to the Bible because we know that it isn't just some ancient book that has no relevance for our lives. And we know that when we open it, we can encounter the person of Jesus and see things that are going to every day help us and benefit us in our everyday life. And we're going to do that again tonight here. I want to take a look at a scripture or a Bible verse from a guy named Paul. And Paul, he was the pastor of a bunch of different churches. He's kind of traveling, and he would write these letters. So he's writing in this part of the Bible to a church in Galatia, the town of Galatia, and it's called the book of Galatians because of that. And so this is kind of like if Thomas was traveling around and he sent an email and we were reading it, right? So in Galatians 5:22-23, Paul is talking about what we call in theology or in Christian circles as the fruits of the Spirit, but really just like elements of your life that are going to be benefited if you continue to look at more and more like Jesus as you subscribe to a Jesus-based life. And it says this, but the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no law against these things. And like, when we read these things, whether you're here tonight and you subscribe to a Jesus-based life or whether you don't, I think we could look at all of those attributes, those fruits of the Spirit or elements of following Jesus, and say, I want more of that in my life. Like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, good, like it's all good. But I want to settle in on the last one, that's self-control. And tonight we're going to be finishing our series, My Life is a Haunted House, and we've been going through a lot of great content. We're kind of wrapping it up with just that topic itself, and that's self-control and self-discipline. Because if we don't get that under control, everything else we've talked about, your financial situation, comparing to others, or dealing with different coping mechanisms, you're not going to be able to fix those if you don't have some element of discipline and self-control. These are all good things. These are all things that we're going to learn more about and have become a more part of your life as you follow Jesus. But why is it so hard to actually achieve that in practice? I always knew in my life that I should be disciplined. It wasn't like I didn't know that, and as my life was spiraling out of control, I wasn't like, what's going on? Like, I kind of knew that I was messing up. But if you want to know the truth about who Jeff is at the root of me as a person, I am lazy. I have a lazy streak in me. That's just really is to get started on it. I always want to find the easiest path. I know we all do, but that's really a problem I have. And the fastest route, and find the least work, and sleep in if I can. That's who I am. I get distracted easily. And sometimes I like to play off, well, I just like to find the hacks. Work smarter, not harder. And there's space for that, but that's not what I do at the root. I want to just do the minimum I can and get the most output out of life. And that has gotten me into so much trouble. I found myself after my first year at college with a 1.01 GPA. You have to try to do that bad. And you need a 2.0 accumulatively to graduate? Good luck. because I'm not that bright. Like, I'm not an academic. So how am I going to pull myself out of this? I got myself in trouble with that. I was fired from my job, like I said. I had these practices and these habits and this lack of discipline that was absolutely not just going to ruin my education, my job, my life, but I was early on in my marriage, but eventually I could tell you it would have really messed up my marriage as well. I'd been fired. I was basically at the end, I was 330 pounds. I was unhealthy. Everything in my life lacked structure. And the first step towards discovering my self-control was when I finally realized I had had enough. And it really came to the point, a breaking point with my weight and my health. I'd go for a jog and I'd just be done. Like, it wasn't just a matter of how I looked, it was a matter of how I felt. And I was realizing that my health was impacting all the other areas of my life, and as far as discipline and everything that came with it. I felt terrible. It was brutal. And I kind of came to a point where I realized I was ruined and I had to stop. But it's not easy. If you've ever tried to start eating healthy, it's not easy. I remember one time I was committed. I was like, I'm not gonna, I tried every single thing you could try. Like little hacks, cheat diets. I decided, I read one time, this is so dumb, but bear with me. I was watching Animal Planet, which is the start of every good diet story. And I heard that cheetahs eat like one meal, and they eat one animal, and then they don't eat for a long time. And then I'm like, cheetahs are thin. 1 + 1 = 2, right? And I just ended up eating one giant meal, which now actually is called intermittent fasting. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation. I didn't get in better health. I felt terrible. I did it wrong. It was a disaster. Don't take your dietary and health advice from cheetahs on Animal Planet is the lesson in that. But I tried everything. I was trying not to eat bad. I just decided no more fast food. And I remember one time I was driving from my wife's house when we were dating in Devon, just on the southwest end. And you go down one road, and where I lived in Beaumont, in Nisku, there's this island of temptation, as I called it. There's a McDonald's there. And it's real. I would just have this tension that the golden arches are coming, and they're glowing, and the siren song is calling to me. And I just passed the turn. I thought, I did it. Feeling proud. Good job, Jeff. And then a train got in front of me, right where you get 3 feet behind the turn in a McDonald's. I sat there for about 5 minutes, I think God wants me to have a Big Mac. I lacked self-discipline there. I'm always gonna look for the way out. But I came to a point where I just realized I had to change my life. It wasn't just my health, it wasn't just how I looked, I was falling apart. And I ended up actually starting off just with that fitness journey or that health journey. I became friends with a guy who's a personal trainer. He hooked me up with a meal plan. He hooked me up with some workout advice, and I just kind of dove right into it. And I had to realize that it wasn't going to change overnight. I had to kind of work towards that. I had to take incremental steps. I needed to set goals in my life, short-term, mid-term, and long-term, and celebrate the steps along the way. You weren't just gonna lose 100 pounds in 3 weeks. If you did, you'd die, so you don't wanna do it that way. You needed to figure out a realistic pathway to the goals that you set in front of you. And he helped me with that. And slowly but surely, I started to see myself get just physically healthier. I was eating well. I'd take time to make my meals. I would say no. It became easier and easier to say no to the golden arches on the way from Devon. And all these other temptations I knew weren't good for me, which is great. It changed who I am, though. As I saw that in the same way that my poor discipline and my poor habits that I was practicing in my everyday life were bleeding into and ruining my educational life, my professional life, my relationships, everything else. As I started to gain some discipline in health, I started to see those bleed into everything else. I say, I can make some time to spend time with God. I need to schedule time and be disciplined to read my Bible, to clean my room, to write down in my calendar all my meetings, to schedule time to do my homework or whatever it is, my work that I'm doing that week, to prioritize in the way you need to and get things done. I had to change my habits, and it started with one area, and you could see, if you put it on a chart, you could see the trajectory changing in all these areas. Not that I've charted it, but that if you did, you could see this. You could see the benefit of everything starting to go together, because the act of discipline helps in all areas. Last week, Pastor Thomas talked about this church in the town of Corinth. And it's like the most undisciplined church. It's a disaster. Like they're immoral. They're all over the place. One of the examples is there was one guy that they were just kind of laughing about it, that he was like sleeping with his mother-in-law, and it was just like even the people who were the pagans, as they said at the time, the outside of in different religions, they would be cool with like orgies and stuff like that, but they were looking at this guy in the church and be like, ugh, this guy's gross, right? So even by their standards, this church wasn't doing well. And if you've ever heard of communion, we do that here from time to time. The cracker and the juice is symbolically of Jesus dying on the cross, and it's a remembrance thing. They did that back then in a different way. They would do like an actual full feast. They'd do this meal, and they were so undisciplined that like the rich people were eating all the food and getting drunk on the wine before any of the poor people could even get there, which is not a great look. They weren't the most organized or the best example of what a healthy church would be. So he was writing to them. And I want to look at a letter he wrote to them as well. In 1 Corinthians 9, 24, 27, and it says, "Don't you realize that in a race everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. I am not just shadow boxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified." He's showing us and trying to show that church and saying, look, people who are training for basically like the Olympics, they are really disciplined. They deny themselves the simple pleasures and the temptations and the momentary desires that they have because they know that there's an end goal. They're focused on the prize. They're focused on what they need to do. And he's talking about how they go for a medal or a wreath at the time. And what we're talking about is something that's eternal, something that's life-changing, and something that will help you beyond just a race, beyond just a prize for running a contest. But he nails in on, don't just aimlessly shadowbox, have a purpose. Run the race of life with purpose and find your discipline. The thing about self-control and self-discipline is anybody and everybody can do it. It just takes work. And unlike what you may believe from following The Rock or some social media influencer, it's not easy and it's not fast. Self-discipline is not just a one-time thing. It's incremental decisions that lead to long-term success. It's doing the things you hate as though you love them. Complacency is the opposite, and it says that if you choose the momentary comforts, it's going to be worth it. It's not really worth going through the discomfort. It's not worth those decisions. It's easier just to spend your money and not have a plan. It's easier just to drink your pain away than to actually focus in on what the cause of the problem is. It's choosing salad, but more than once. It has to be a habitual change, something in your life that you actually change who you are, that you change how you think, that you change the way that you deal with your situations. Maybe for you, it needs to be getting up early and spending some time reading your Bible, or just looking through your life and spending some time to center yourself and focus in or talk to God, or maybe it's a matter of like I said, keeping a calendar. Maybe you just need to set some short-term goals. Maybe it's just cleaning your room for the first time in a long time and being proud of that. What is it for you today? What is it that's going to improve your quality of life physically, emotionally, and spiritually? So what in your life needs self-discipline, needs a boost of self-control? What have you been dealing with? Maybe it was something that you felt really hit you about what Thomas was talking about last week with coping mechanisms. Maybe it was comparison. Maybe it was your financial situation. I don't know. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's a time to take a step forward in that, like it was for me. Do you need to organize your life more? Do you need to spend time with God? Do you need to get that porn habit under control? Do you need to drink less? Do you need to change that habit that is built up over COVID and it's kind of like getting out of control and you don't know? Or was it a decision you made that's turned into a habit over the years and it's just kind of how you deal with stuff? What is it for you? What do you need to begin the process of dealing with? Because it starts with a decision. It starts with moving forward. It's a marathon, but it starts with a couple of steps. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's very true. If you have a long-term goal, you can't just focus and expect to get there right away. You need to start moving in that direction. Start setting reasonable short-term goals. Celebrate those goals. Start building these patterns in your life. And here's what I want to tell you tonight. If you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, you don't know me, Jeff. You don't know what I do. You don't know who I am. You don't know what people have told me, family members, teachers. I don't know what it is. You don't know how deep of a hole I am in. I'm in so much debt you wouldn't even want to talk to me after. Stop. Stop thinking that way. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how good you are at this practice or this habit of discipline and self-control. It doesn't matter how much in debt you are. It doesn't matter what anyone has ever said to you. You need to hear this tonight. You can do it. You're worth it. And it's possible. And it's time to start taking steps towards whatever that is for you. Because on the other end of these decisions is a freedom and a joy. And like we see when we're talking about the fruits of the Spirit or those elements that Paul was talking about, all these good things come from following a Jesus-based life, which is going to help you in self-discipline. And you can hear this and you can be motivated by it. Just like if you can listen to The Rock. I know I'm not as motivational as him. But you might be motivated tonight and have a plan to go out tonight and tomorrow and do these things. But you need to know that motivation comes and goes. Someone can just pump you up. That's what a motivational speaker does. It can pump you up and get you excited, and you can move towards that, and you'll have some success in the short term, but it's very rare that you're going to actually succeed. The stats on how many people that do different, like every January, do their New Year's resolution, it's usually over within a week. Like, I go to the gym pretty regularly. January 1st to like the 15th, it's packed. The 16th, empty. It's just people give up. Because they're motivated. But what we need to find is inspiration. Something that sticks with you, something that motivates you long term. So how do you do that? What small incremental steps do you need to take those habits to build? And how are you going to make realistic ways to help you achieve those goals? What do you need to add? What do you need to remove? If you want to be inspired long term, it begins with not doing it by yourself. Self-discipline is a fight that we choose to begin to fight, but we win the battle together. We win it in community, and that's one of the most valuable things about the project community here is that if you join a small group, if you connect with people here, there's going to be people who can help you through that. Maybe you already have that person in your life, mentors. I know for me, it was my friend who was a personal trainer who could check in after the weekend, hey, Jeff, what did you eat? I ate 4 pizzas. Well, that's not going to help you out. Right? Who can call you out on your behavior? Who can check in and say, you told me about these goals. But the fact is you have to bring someone into the conversation. You need to take that step towards community. You need to find that mentor in your life. You need to find somebody who can help to keep you accountable. If you don't, it's almost impossible to win by yourself. You need support. And then the biggest one in my personal experience, and for those of you that are here tonight that subscribe to a Jesus-based life, this will fit in with your worldview. And maybe you're here tonight and you don't follow that. And that's cool. We love having you here. You're always welcome here at the project. But let me tell you, in my experience, a Jesus-based life has been everything to me. Without Jesus, without following and subscribing to that, I would not be here on stage. I wouldn't have made it past those different times where I was falling apart. Because someone can get up here and start like screaming like different slogans like, get this bread, which is the worst slogan ever. Right? Get this bread. Yeah, grind every day. Go like these guys on Instagram or these girls on social media. And yeah, I'm all motivated. But you need more than that. That wasn't enough. And it wasn't until I really had a frank conversation with God and said, my life is not where I want it to be. Because we can build up these walls in our mind of like why it's not our fault. And maybe in some ways it isn't totally your fault, but we can really build up these blinders to the areas that we actually have control of and the ways we've contributed to our own failures and in the ways that we aren't exercising self-control. I need Jesus' help to make this work. And in my experience, I would suggest that that would be beneficial to you as well. So for me, I would say if you haven't even considered a Jesus-based life, if you're tired of running away from these problems in your life, if you're tired of struggling through issues with self-discipline, if the things that I read that Paul was talking about, the fruits of the Spirit, peace, love, self-discipline, all those things are something you want more of, it begins with a step towards that. towards that lifestyle, towards following Jesus. Because we aren't alone anymore in that battle. There's an extra amount of oomph that we have. In 2 Timothy, it's a book in the Bible, Paul again, Pastor Paul, is writing to a mentor, someone he was mentoring, a younger guy named Timothy, and he says, "For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline." Gives us power, love, and self-discipline. And when we say power, that's not some like hocus pocus weird stuff. It's just we have someone with us. We have Jesus with us to help us to, when we're tempted by something, when it's easier to make the poor decision. I've had so many times where there's that little voice in the back of my head, no, you've been here before. You're not alone in this. You don't have to give in to that. And that's available to all of us. And without that support, I don't believe that we can fully achieve everything we're capable of being. Paul also says to the Philippian church in Philippians 4:13, "I can do all this through him who gives me strength." It's not easy. It's really hard. And I'm battling that every day. I'm still that person. I'm up and down. I don't always make the right decisions, but I've found that, man, I can't go back to that person who was so undisciplined, that he felt far from God, that he felt like he was being ruined in every sense of the word, like he felt like he would never achieve what he should have done, what he was called to do, and who was working a dead-end job and thought he had missed out on his purpose in life. Without Jesus, I couldn't have done that. And it's with the power and the love and the strength that you can have through a Jesus-based life that you will be able to achieve more in this area and all areas than you could ever imagine. So the band's gonna come up, and we're gonna sing a couple more songs. But I want you to think with me and to analyze your own life. I want you to join me in that. Why don't you stand with me? They're gonna play a couple of songs. And in your own heart, just either ask God if that's what you subscribe to, and say, what is it in my life that I need to take that first step? What goals do I need to set for myself? What's a mentor? What's a person, a friend I need to talk to? What conversation do I need to have with someone else or with God? And if not that, just analyze your life. What is the next step for me? What do I need to do that's going to lead me to success, to that happiness, to make those better decisions? What is it for you tonight that you need to begin the first couple of steps in the marathon of change? So I'm going to pray for all of you, and just as Brett leads these songs and the band plays, just be honest with yourself. Be honest with God. It's not a shame moment. It's just self-analyzing. It's a moment of change, and I really believe that in a little while, in a couple of months, in a couple of years, you could look back at tonight and you could say, that was the night that I changed the trajectory of my life. That was where it all changed. So God, thank you for everybody here. Thank you just that we can come to you and talk to you about our very real problems, and thank you that you care about us. God, for everyone here and for myself, I pray that in these areas of self-discipline that we would choose the right thing more often than not, that you would help us to make the right decisions, but that we would take the steps that we need to get our life in order, that we would not just clean up the rooms in our house, but clean up the rooms in our heart, that we would focus and organize and just care more. God, I pray for anybody that's struggling through the results of some of these habits, that feel lost and incapable. God, I pray you would give them just an encouragement and just a feeling that they can do it. And if there's any way that we as the project community, that we can invest and to help, God, I pray that you would help us to do that as well, that we could fight this battle and win it together. So God, we trust you, we love you, we thank you that you give us just so much love and support. And we're so excited for what you have for our lives.
When all I know starts to fail me, and I can feel you near, I'll wait for you. Tears have blinded my vision, and you seem miles away. I'll wait for you, my God. I'll wait for you. And you come. You meet me where I am. You give me strength to stand. Perfect love, it knows no end. Oh, you are faithful. Tears have blinded my vision. You see miles away. I'll wait for you, my God. I'll wait for you. And you come. You meet me where I am. You give me strength to stand. Perfect love, it knows no end. Oh, you are faithful, God. And now I'm giving you control of my life to make you known. Here's my heart, it's yours alone. Oh, you are faithful, God. Oh, you'll never leave me. No, you never leave me on my own. Oh, you'll never leave me. No, you'll never leave me. And now I'm giving you control all my life to make you known. Here's my heart, it's yours alone. Oh, you are faithful, God.
Take the lead of every step I make. Even if you tell my feet to wait. 'Cause where you are is where I wanna be. The depth of me is calling for the deep. Oh. I don't want it if you're not in it. I just want you. I don't want it if you're not in it. I just want you. Your heart, your ways, show me your face, your song, your voice.
is that you're speaking into every heart in this room tonight, God, through the message and during worship. I just pray that, there would just be peace, and that your love would be so clear and so known, God, and that even if you're highlighting things that are hard, that there would just be such a deep understanding that it comes out of love, and that you just have the best intentions for us and the best plans, and you want to see us thrive and fully alive. And so, God, we just give this night to you, this week to you, as we continue to walk into what it looks like to apply